Hey everybody, and welcome back. I'm doing this a little bit differently today, and I'm doing voiceover as opposed to recording video as I paint. I'm experimenting with this because I think I might actually find this an easier method for doing the painting. So if I don't have to be thinking while I'm painting, that might work out better for me. But let's get right to it. This video was actually suggested by one of my Patreon subscribers, Jeffrey Lieski. So Jeffrey, this is for you. And he specifically had asked about how I go about, let me see, he said, could you do a tutorial on how you plan out and do source lighting? It is a subject that has perplexed me a bit, and I figure you may have some advice that could help out. Well, I hope I do. One of the interesting things about doing these videos is that it forces me to think about things, which is not something I do all the time. And I know I've covered the topic of source lighting in some of my other videos, but I've never done a dedicated video on it. So this is kind of a first. And as you can see in front of you, I have the subject of this particular video, which is a Gale Force 9 Special Edition Lolth miniature from their D&D line. And I just finished painting this today, as well as recorded some video of it. So we're going to jump right in with the video here, and what I'm going to start with is the source, in this case the magical fire on her hand, since that's going to be the most important part of the source lighting. You've got to have the source. And I'm using, this is the Warcolors Transparent Purple. I actually recently got the transparent set from them, and I'm really liking having these things. There it is right there. Did I say purple? I think it says violet. Anyway, transparent violet. Sort of a blue purple. And I'm going to coat the whole thing with a slightly thinned down mix of that. And then once I have that coated in there, I'm going to actually wet blend this, because these miniatures, because these paints really lend themselves well to that. Sorry about the bird in the background. It's not much I can do about that. It's just where I'm recording, and she always gets this way when I'm recording. The whole object of this is to have the hottest portion of the fire at the bottom and the coolest portion at the top, essentially. The brightest at the bottom, darkest at the top. So I'm starting with the dark, and then adding some white directly into it at the bottom, drawing that up, and sort of letting the blend happen naturally on its own. It works really well. And again, the Warcolors paints seem to be particularly good for this, but you can do it with other ones as well, and you can essentially do it with any paints if you add a little drying retarder into your paint. I just like the fact that these paints seem to be ready to go right from the beginning, right out of the bottle. So with the source painted, we can move over to plotting out how the light is going to fall on the model itself. And that involves sort of tracing out a path that the light's going to take and where it is likely to stop. So in this case, I'm looking at the hair and the chest and, you know, which is closer, which is farther away. Like the bottom of the hand will keep the light from traveling directly downwards. Where is it going to stop on the hair? And really, you got to take all of those things into consideration. And then I'm going to start with the darkest color. And again, I'm using that transparent violet. But this time I'm starting with a very thin mix of it. And I'm going to wash that over all the parts of the model where I'm going to have the light having an effect on the model itself. So this is going to encompass that entire range of areas, and it effectively works as my starting point. And from here, I can kind of pull back and make things brighter and more concentrated as you get closer to the source. Also, what this does is, now again, we are starting with a model that is completely painted. So you will sometimes, and in this case, you'll see it, where you're going to want the underlying color to show through somewhat. And it'll help provide a little bit more of that realism, that feeling that, you know, this is an unnatural light that is affecting how we see this model. Whereas the rest of it is lit by white light, there is a violet light coming off of the source. So in effect, this stage is working a bit like a glaze. The glaze isn't going to work in one go. This is one of those situations where you're going to want to apply multiple layers before you reach the desired effect. And what that effect is kind of up to you. In this case, I'm trying to just saturate the underlying color a little bit and shift it to the violet color. With that first coat done, the rest is just highlighting. You're going to want to, again, take into account the distance from the source and what the material is, like this cloth that I'm doing that you can barely see. Oh, there we go. This cloth is close to the source, so it's getting a fair bit of color and highlighting. And, you know, I'm getting some edge highlighting done as well, you know, things where I feel like it's going to pick up some color. But in general, cloth isn't going to reflect a lot of light, so you don't necessarily want it to be super bright. Whereas if it was a piece of armor, for example, a shiny metallic piece of armor, it's going to reflect back more of that inherent light, so you're going to get a more pronounced effect. But you know, you don't even have to worry about that too much, as long as you just sort of, you know, make it look good. That's really the important thing here. And there you go. That's pretty much it. Plan it out, figure out where you're going with it, decide how much you want to do, get the outer edges and the rest of it all kind of blocked in, and then highlight, and you're done. It's not that hard, but it can take some time. This is probably this is a pretty super pronounced version of it. You can certainly go a lot lighter than this, a lot less. Well, a lot less. Let's just put it that way. So that's going to be it. If you have any questions, definitely leave them in the description or post them to Patreon if you're a subscriber. And speaking of Patreon, if you want to help support these videos, definitely head over to Patreon. There's a link in the description that'll take you right over there. Every little bit helps. Every subscriber helps. And I appreciate every single one of my subscribers. So thank you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.